بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In continuation of the ins and outs of marriage in Islam, today in our 46th episode inshallah, we will be talking about the conditions of marriage. So we spoke about how to get engaged and the Islamic prospect of engagement. The book goes on to speak about the conditions of marriage. And there are a number of conditions. One would ask the frequently asked questions: where did we get these conditions from? If the Qur'an did not stipulate it, or the Sunnah. This is where the scholars come. Allah Azza wa Jal has placed in the Qur'an verses of the Qur'an and told us that in them there will be signs for those of intellect, for those of comprehension, for those who understand. And this meant that those of intellect and comprehension should sit and study the Qur'an to understand what Allah wanted to tell us, which the vast majority of Muslims may not be able to detect this. And this is why we have scholars and we have laymen. And they gathered and compiled these conditions, these pillars, these mandatory acts, and classified them, listed them, so that you and I could comprehend and understand like they had done. So these conditions are obtained through a vigorous process of reading and compiling and documenting the Qur'an and the Sunnah, and doing so with the understanding of the three favorite generations of the companions of the Tabi'een and the Tabi'it Tabi'een. So the first condition here is that each of the two spouses must be identified in person. What does that mean? Ambiguity must be removed. And this is in all types of contracts. I sell you my mobile phone. You say, I accept. Done deal. Khalas. After some time, I would ask and demand my money. You give me an amount that does not rise to my requirement, and we start to fight. The mobile doesn't cost that much. Well, this is what I want to charge for it, and you agreed to buy it, and dispute occurs. Islam blocks this door of disputes through eliminating ambiguity. In marriage, ambiguity is very easy. A boy comes to meet the father of the girl, and in the marriage contract he says, I give you my daughter in marriage. The boy says, I accept. The witnesses are there, everything is fixed. After the party is over, he goes and discovers that his bride is not the woman he came to marry. They all knew that he was interested in marrying the younger one, but the father says, no, I gave in marriage the eldest. This is not permissible, and such a marriage is not valid. Why? There was proposal and consent, and there were witnesses and a dowry paid. Yes, but there was ambiguity. Identifying the bride was not done properly. Likewise, on the other hand, if a guardian of a boy says that I accept the marriage of your daughter Fatima to my son or to one of my sons, this is not permissible. This doesn't do the job, and such description is not sufficient, and the marriage is not valid. But if he did not give the name, rather described one of the spouses with a valid description, such as, I give you my eldest daughter or my youngest daughter, there's no problem in that. If he has only one daughter and he says, I give you my daughter in marriage, he doesn't have to say her name because he has no other daughters. Again, this is not problematic. There is no problem in that, inshallah. The second condition is known in Arabic as ar-rida, meaning that you are content, you are willingly accepting, you're not being forced, there's no compulsion, it's not against your will. So this is also a very important condition. Now, I will come later on, inshallah, to discuss the ruling on video marriage contract, because someone might think that this is the mother of all ambiguity. But I will come to discuss this, inshallah. So, content means that the woman is not forced, and the boy is not getting married against his will. And this happens a lot in families that are run by tyrant parents. People who have fathers that don't accept opposition or an objection to what they say. Usually, girls are forced into marriage with such an evil father. One would claim and say that, okay, but he's the father, isn't he? Doesn't he have the authority to get his daughter married? I said, yes, but not against her will. And this was clearly stated by our Prophet ﷺ. When a woman came to the Prophet ﷺ complaining and saying, "O Prophet of Allah, my father gave me in marriage to my cousin so that for one reason or the other." So the Prophet said, ﷺ, the marriage is not valid, and no marriage is valid through compulsion. However, it is the duty of the girl to oppose and to stand firm and to complain. So on her wedding night or before that, through the wedding contract, she must not sign the contract, even if her father forces her to do so. She must complain to the judge and tell him that I was forced to sign. She must go to the authorities and do whatever she can to change this. If she doesn't, and then comes the wedding night, and she is taken by her husband to their home, and she does not stand up for herself. She does not tell him that I'm forced, I do not want to be married to you. If she doesn't go to the police, if she doesn't do anything, and after a month or so, she comes and says, I was forced into marriage. Where were you all this time? The judge cannot help you in this. You have to make a stance immediately. So the woman who came to the Prophet ﷺ and complained about her father forcing her to get married, he told her that you have the liberty to leave such a marriage as it's invalid. The girl spoke and said, well, as of now, I'm okay with my husband, but I just wanted women to learn their rights and not to be driven to such a thing that they may not be happy with. So this hadith proves to us that forcing a girl to marry someone she doesn't want, the marriage itself is invalid. And this is why we say conditions of marriage. What is meant by conditions of marriage? A condition is something that comes prior to an action or a form of worship, which without its being present, the form of worship or that action would be void. So a condition of salat is to be in the state of wudu. If a person does not perform wudu and prays, his prayer usually is invalid. The third condition is the presence of a woman's guardian. Not only the presence, it should have been rephrased here. It should have been the proposal of the woman's guardian, because the proposal is the clearest of all indications of his consent and approval. Because as we will come to know, inshallah, the marriage procedure is by the guardian of the woman proposing to the boy, and by the boy accepting the proposal. Unlike what most people think, is that the boy proposes to the girl or to the girl's father, and then the father says, yes, okay, I agree. They think that this is a normal procedure. This is not. The normal procedure is to have the proposal first. So if I go to a shop and the shopkeeper tells me, buy from me this piece of cloth for $10. This is a proposal. I can say in response, I accept, or I do. This is acceptance. Khalas, deal is done. Marriage is done. So the proposal of the guardian is essential. It's a condition. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, no marriage is valid without the presence of the guardian. So the vast majority of scholars, the vast majority of schools of thought say that a marriage without the proposal and consent of the guardian is invalid. Only Abu Hanifa, may Allah have mercy on his soul, said that no, such a marriage is valid even if her father was not present or was not approving of it. And his justification was that in Islam, a woman has the right to deal with her wealth, buying, selling, giving, putting into endowment. She has the right to do this without the approval of her guardian. Why would she need the approval of her guardian when it comes to her own flesh and to her own body? She should be the one responsible for that. And this justification, though might be logical, yet it goes against the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ, and before that, against the Qur'an. Because all the cases of marriage in the Qur'an When it comes to women, Allah addresses it through the guardian. So Allah Azza wa Jal says, do not give in marriage those who are idol worshippers or the likes, even if you like them. So do not give in marriage means that it's not me who's getting married. Allah says in the Qur'an, وَلَا تَنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكَاتِ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنُوا. Do not marry the idol worshipper females until they believe. Do not marry. This is addressed to me. But when it comes to the guardians or the females, Allah says, وَلَا تُنْكِحُوا الْمُشْرِكِينَ حَتَّى يُؤْمِنُوا. Do not give the idol worshippers men in marriage until they believe. Why do we say do not give? Why doesn't Allah speak to the woman directly like He spoke to the man directly? Because in marriage, a woman needs a guardian. She doesn't go and marry herself. And this is the opinion of the majority of schools of thought and scholars based on the hadith. And if I recall correctly, even the top two students of Abu Hanifa, may Allah have mercy on them all, went against his opinion and stated that a woman cannot marry herself. And this is the description of chaos. When a woman overrides her father's opinion and she goes and gets married. We've seen this a lot, especially in liberal places where women go to universities and colleges and work in mixed environment. She sits with a stranger for 8 hours minimum a day at work, while she sits with her father and siblings maybe less than quarter of that time, less than 2 hours a day. What would you expect Shaitan to do? And all of a sudden we find out that she was married for 3 years in secret. This is not marriage. This is proper zina. This is fornication. Because it was the Prophet himself ﷺ who said, no marriage is valid without the presence of the guardian. So if he's not present, if he doesn't give his consent, if he does not propose, then the marriage is invalid. Now, in regards of guardian, because I face a lot of such problems, especially while doing counseling sessions, while being asked. A lot of the Muslims nowadays are involved in marriage through Skype or through Zoom or through any of these new technologies that facilitate things and get those who are far close by. So what's the ruling on that? In a nutshell, if ambiguity is eliminated, the marriage is valid. But this ambiguity has to be eliminated with all parties. What do you mean, Sheikh? Well, when we are face to face on the internet, I have a webcam and a screen or a monitor. You have a webcam and a monitor. We see one another. So I would say, hi, my name is Assim Al-Hakeem. And the father of the girl says, my name is XYZ. I never met him. I know the girl through matrimonial websites or through a friend who knows a friend who knows a friend. And when I look into her character, into her CV, and we had a meeting in the presence of her brother through online, of course, I felt inclined to marry her, and she had the same feeling. Now, in order to get this marriage valid, I have to know whether the guardian is truly her guardian or not. Because in so many cases, which I was involved in, a woman comes to me saying to me that she got her nikah, her marriage contract, with X person. And after the marriage, the guy disappeared. And she doesn't know the witnesses because they came from his side. And she has no contact with him. So she's married, but she's not married. She's supposed to have a husband, but there is no husband inside. She wants to move on and marry someone else, but she can't because she's already married. What to do? Well, this is your problem. You put yourself in this mess. And so many Muslims put themselves in such similar messes when they don't ask. I get people coming to me. A brother called me yesterday, Sheikh, I bought a car in installments and I don't know whether this is halal or haram. Subhanallah. When did you buy it? He said, only last week. Why didn't you ask then? I said, I didn't know because the offer was good and it was a Lexus. I said, a Lexus has its glow and temptation. It's already done. The damage is done. You bought the car, and if I tell you to quit, they'll tell you to pay $30,000 for using it for 1 week. This is a contract. So why didn't you ask? Sheikh, I saw a woman, whoa, she's a bombshell. Her father must be a terrorist because she's a bomb. Subhanallah. Then what? He said, I proposed online, I sent her an email. I asked Allah for forgiveness because we used to chit chat until I got to know her. Now I'm desperate to marry her. So we got online and she told me that this is her father. He was an elderly man. And then we got married. And after a couple of months, I discovered that she's married to 6 other boys. And that old man was rented. And the 2 witnesses were not her siblings, rather they were university colleagues. I don't know what to do, Sheikh. Now you come and ask me, why didn't you even send me an email, give me a call, contacted any other Sheikh? Would have told you that there should be no room for ambiguity. Therefore, to conduct a marriage through internet, you have to be certain of the person or persons involved. So as a boy, as a man, I have to know the identity, the true identity of the father of the girl, and the identity of the girl herself, and the 2 witnesses. One would say, okay, what about the ma'dhoon, the one who writes the contract? This guy is not part of Islam. He's just a cleric to authenticate or document. But if I know that the girl's father is my uncle, he's my neighbor in my hometown for 20 years, there's no ambiguity. If I know that the girl is my cousin, and my parents are there on the other side, I'm living in Europe or somewhere else, and they are in my hometown. So everybody knows everyone. There's no ambiguity. They know that I'm their cousin, I'm their relative, I'm their neighbor. And the witnesses are known to all. We can get them whenever we want. Such a marriage is valid and there's no problem in that. So usually, people don't follow this procedure. Why? Because they have one objective in the mind, and we would like to do it immediately after marriage contract. This is what's usually happening. The girl is here, I'm here. but the barrier of haram is there. We want to take that barrier away. So we give concessions. We don't follow the protocol. And after the marriage is done and I get what I want, then we start to ask questions. This is wrong. You don't shoot first, then ask questions. This is what people are doing, and then they're coming and having counseling sessions, what to do, how can I rectify this. A sister calls and says that I'm married to a man. I don't know where the man is. The witnesses are not willing to contact me. The imam himself just fled, and I'm stranded. I am married, but I can't get out of this marriage. No matter how many Islamic centers I visit, they say, okay, no problem, just give us a paper of marriage. She says, I don't have. We didn't document it. Okay, give us the ID card, the name, the mobile number of the husband, of the witnesses. Well, he fled the country. I don't know where he is. The witnesses don't want to talk to me. Subhanallah. So just because of a one-night stand, you destroy your life or face the possibility of getting married while you're still married. The issues of marriage is very, very important to learn and to have control over your desires and lust. Marriage is not a carte blanche for you to go and see whatever woman you like and you just jump the gun. Halas, let's get married. Let's go to any 7-Eleven and see a cleric or a sheikh to get us married and move on. Marriage is a constitution. It is a strong pledge as mentioned by Allah in the Qur'an. Fourth condition is the presence of witnesses. So the previous hadith, the Prophet said no marriage is valid without the presence of the guardian, and he said afterwards, and two sound witnesses. So when we say sound witnesses, what do we mean by adl? Shahiday adl, meaning that they shouldn't be open sinners or fornicators, because fornicators are not trustworthy, are not sound. So if I get someone who's a well-known open fornicator to testify in a marriage, this guy is not trustworthy because he doesn't care about halal and haram. And by the way, if we go back to the condition of the guardian is not any person who is related to a woman. So some people say, okay, Sheikh, I proposed to a girl, her father refused, so I asked her brother, and brother says, okay, I have no problem. No, it doesn't go like this. The guardian must be the father. If he's dead, then his father, that is the paternal grandfather of the girl. If not, then her son, if she was previously married and has a son. If not, then her brothers. If not, then her paternal uncles. If not, then her paternal cousins. The guardian cannot be someone from the side of the mother, a maternal relative. Even a grandfather doesn't work. He has to be a person that carries the same name. And he must be an adult. So I can't have a child or a young boy who did not reach puberty acting as a guardian for his sister, mother, or whatever. He must be an adult. He must be sane. I can't get someone who's 20 years of age, but unfortunately he is severely autistic and doesn't understand, has the brains of a 3-year-old child. He cannot be a guardian. He must be a free man. So even if I want to marry a woman whose father is a slave, he cannot be her guardian, because a slave does not possess his own freedom, let alone possess the right to marry someone to someone else. And the guardian must share the same religion with his daughter or sister or whatever. So if I were to marry a Muslimah who's a revert, previously Christian or Hindu, her father is a kafir, a disbeliever. He has no authority over his Muslim daughter. So what should I do? I should look in her paternal relatives, someone who's Muslim. So if I find that she has a Muslim brother, excellent. She has a Muslim uncle, that's the job. If neither or none existing to be Muslims, in this case, the Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, that the Muslim ruler is the guardian to those who do not have a guardian. As-sultanu waliyu man la waliya lah. And who's the Muslim ruler? If you're a Muslim country, then the head of the country, or those who he had appointed, such as the governor, such as the Muslim judge in the Muslim court, they would take the place of the guardian and they would give the authority of marrying this woman to you. If there is no Muslim ruler, no Muslim authority, as in the case of Europe or America, so you go to the authorized Islamic center, because this is the Islamic authority existing at that place, where all Muslims should abide by their instructions and they should follow their orders. So you go there, and the Imam of the authorized Islamic center would act as a guardian in this case. So number 4, the presence of witnesses. And again, unfortunately, a lot of the Muslims who are ignorant conducted their marriages in a non-Islamic way. A lot of Muslims in Europe, for example, go and have a civil marriage. So they go, he goes with the father of the girl and the girl with him, and they conduct a marriage contract in the city hall, stating that I married Fatima, the daughter of Ahmed, on this particular day. And maybe the father would propose, I give my daughter Fatima to so-and-so. And the boy says, I agree. And they have a certificate, civil marriage is there, and it's registered. And they live for 20 years. Then, after watching my Ask Zad or Ask Huda programs, they said, whoops, Houston, we have a problem. What's the problem? Our marriage is not valid. Why? There were no Muslim witnesses. Yes, but it is authenticated, it is registered in the city hall, it is documented. It is not an Islamic marriage without the presence of 2 Muslim male witnesses. Her father was there. Her father doesn't count as a witness. He's a guardian. You need 2 men, Muslim men, witnessing this. Wallah, we didn't have any. Well, your marriage is invalid. What to do? This is another issue. Solving current problems needs you to send us an email, or maybe book a counseling session, or get me on the phone, providing it's less than 5 minutes, that's free. Send us an email, that's free. Put a question in the question box, that's also free. We will get to answer it later on, inshallah. Finally, there is a condition that is also classified as a pillar. So a lot of the schools of thought don't mention this, but it is mentioned because it is in between, which is the absence of any reason that preclude the marriage, such as the spouse or spouses having been breastfed by one woman, or following different religion, or they were in the state of ihram, etc. What does that mean? I can marry any woman on earth unless there is an obstacle preventing me from. Doesn't. What kind of obstacles are we talking about? First of all, can I marry my sister? Of course not. This is incest. Because she's not permissible for you. She's a mahram to you. So this is one of the obstacles. I cannot marry any of my mahram, whether she's my mom, or my daughter, or my sister, or my aunt, or my niece, among others. Of course, I'm not going to go into details of the mahrams, you know that, inshallah. So this is one of those I cannot marry. Two, to widen up the scope, I cannot marry anyone who's already married, which means a couple of billion women on earth I cannot marry. Why? Because they're married. They have an existing husband. So this is an obstacle. Three, if a woman I'm interested in and myself were breastfed by an auntie. So an elder woman in her 70s, 80s, she said, when you guys were infants, I breastfed you for a whole week. So now this woman is my sister through suckling. I cannot marry her. And the same happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ. When a man who was already married with children met a woman, and she said, you and your wife I suckled when you both were infants. So the man went straight to the Prophet ﷺ, and he said, O Prophet of Allah, the woman says so and so. So the Prophet ﷺ, leave your wife, she's your sister. He said, O Prophet of Allah, how can I leave my wife for such a testimony? And the Prophet said, what do you want me to do? As long as it was said, the woman testified, that's it, that's sufficient. So this is an obstacle. Another obstacle would be that I'm interested in marrying a woman, but this woman is not lawful for me, because as a Muslim man I can only marry a Christian woman, a Jewish woman, or a Muslim woman. But this woman is Buddhist, or she is agnostic, she doesn't believe in any religion. It is totally prohibited for me to marry her, and if I attempt, this marriage would be void and invalid. And among other conditions, obstacles that would prevent such a marriage from taking place. Now, what are the arkan? And the arkan are the essentials of marriage. We have a number of them, and I think we will stop here to check the questions that we did not finish last week or last Monday. So question number 9. Ali or Aiza says, what to do when your heart is hardened? And this needs a lecture. Allah Azza wa Jal, as mentioned in the hadith, does not look at our bodies or our wealth. How much do we have in the bank account? Rather, He looks at our hearts and our deeds. This is what Allah Azza wa Jal looks at. Hence, the heart is the most important organ in your body because it makes it or breaks it. It can be filled with Iman and it can be filled with hypocrisy and disbelief. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us that Ibrahim said in the Qur'an that salvation should only be for those who come on the day of judgment with a healthy, pure heart. And I will not get into the discussion. How can the heart be the center of feelings, of choice, of intellect, while the brain has these powers? This is a long topic. All what we understand in the Qur'an is that this flesh is the center for all of these things that we talk about, such as the choices, the feelings, the love and hate, the belief and disbelief. So this heart, as the Prophet said, ﷺ, there is a morsel in the body. If it is fixed, then the whole body is fixed. And if it is bad or rotten or corrupt, the whole body is corrupt. It is the heart, the Prophet says. So when you have a hardened heart, you have a big problem. There are things that soften the heart, and there are things that harden the heart. For example, the Prophet said, ﷺ, avoid excessive laughter, because excessive laughter kills the heart. When all our day and night we're engaged in laughing, cracking jokes, watching stand-up comedies, watching comic movies and comedian movies or comedy movies, and reading comic books that are all, making you laugh, this would lead to your heart's death. And by death, we don't mean cardiac attack, rather than we mean the ability to love Islam and to taste the sweetness of the Qur'an and to enjoy salat, etc. The Prophet ﷺ told us about how sins impact our hearts, and that every sin, a black dot is placed on the heart. And if a person quits and asks Allah for forgiveness, it's erased. And if he does not, then the dots continue to occur until the heart is overwhelmed and becomes as dark as night. The Prophet said, ﷺ, whoever misses 3 consecutive Friday prayers, and with the lockdown, one is not included because this is forced upon us, it's not by choice. So whoever misses without a legitimate reason, Allah will place a seal on his heart. And how would that be? It's not a physical seal that you see. It is simply that Allah seals your heart so that when you hear the truth, you're unable to process it. When you hear the Qur'an being recited, you don't feel that you're understanding it or enjoying it. When you hear the adhan calling for the prayer, you see everybody going to the masjid and you're the only one who is going in the other direction. People are looking at you. You're not aware of any of this because you're heedless, you're neglectful. So hearts are hardened by sins, are dried by not remembering Allah and reading the Qur'an, are stiffened, they become stiff when you don't mix with righteous practicing company. This is why the Prophet said ﷺ, that a wolf attacks a stray sheep that went away from the pack, from the herd. And shaitan attacks those who are alone, don't have righteous company, don't mix with righteous people. This is why your heart is hardened. Your heart is softened by Qur'an, by dhikr, by prayer, by listening to lectures, by attending circles of knowledge, by reading beneficial books, but it is hardened by listening to music, by watching haram movies and soap operas and the likes, by looking at haram pictures, nude women or men, pornography. All of these tarnish the purity of your heart. So it is like a tree where pure water from the river is irrigating it, and sewer water is also irrigating it. The tree inevitably is inclined to what goes into its veins more. So whether it is najis or tahir, this depends on the amount that enters it. Likewise, your heart. So how to soften your heart? This again requires a lot of talk, which we don't have time for, but there is a beautiful hadith, and it's a glimpse. There are many hadiths that shows you how to soften your heart, where the Prophet said to his companion, alayhi salatu wasalam, do you like to soften your heart and to attain the things you need and want? And I said, yes, of course. I need to attain wealth to buy a new car or a house or to pay my debts. How to do that? The Prophet said, if you were to wipe over the head of an orphan, this would soften your heart and helps you attain what you want. Subhanallah. This is the last thing I could ever imagine to be of such great reward. Wiping over the head of an orphan, of course this is a metaphorical gesture of being kind, of being loving, of being merciful, of providing for that orphan. Not just going randomly in an orphanage and just wipe their heads and then leave. No, this is not what it was meant. It is referring to showing love and compassion to this broken heart, an orphan who lost his father and he's below the age of puberty, needs compassion, needs mercy, needs love. So there are so many things that would soften your heart. But as for now, fill your heart with Qur'an, with dhikr, with worshipping Allah, with listening to lectures, being around practicing righteous people instead of being around people who do not relate to the deen, and Allah Azza wa Jalla knows best. Aziza says, can women wear wigs and remove it when praying? The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, in the hadith that was narrated by Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu, and it's in the Sahih, لَعَنَ اللَّهُ الْوَاصِلَةَ وَالْمُسْتَوْصِلَةَ. May Allah curse the one who fixes extensions to women, and for the women who get extensions fixed to them. What is meant by extensions? Hair extensions. So if a woman comes, she has short hair and she gets fake braids or fake long hair, and she would have, wow, mashallah, fixed to her hair, she is cursed. And the hairdresser who did that to her is cursed as well. Wearing a wig is even far worse than extensions, because at least in extensions you have the real hair and you have the fake hair, but when you wear a wig it's all fake, so it's worse. But it is permissible to wear a wig only when this is used to remove a defect. So a woman who lost her hair completely, not that her hair is thin, no, she's completely bald, as in the case of women undergoing chemotherapy. May Allah cure our ill people. She loses her hair. In this case, it is totally permissible for her to wear a wig, because this wig is not for beautification, rather to restore Allah's original creation and to remove a defect. There's no problem in that. But to wear a wig so that you please your husband, or that you look different, or for even for costume parties, this is haram. Which leads us to, what about the hair that clowns wear? Again, this is a wig and this is haram. So people have to pay attention to this, and Allah knows best. It has nothing to do with your prayer. So if you're sinful and you put it on and you put your hijab on top of it and you pray, your prayer is valid. Amreen Hussein says, can I recite the surahs in salah loudly while praying alone? So either Amreen is asking because she's a woman. I don't know if the name is a name of a woman or not. So she's asking, I'm alone, can I recite Qur'an in Fajr, Maghrib, Isha, and night prayer aloud or not? The answer is yes. There's no problem in you reciting these prayers aloud, even if you're not alone, even if there are mahrams, your brother, your father, your son, your uncle, no problem. Your voice is not a problem for them to hear. The other possibility is that Amreen is asking about raising the voice in silent rak'ahs, like the Dhuhr prayer, Asr prayer, the last rak'ah of Maghrib, and the last 2 rak'ahs of Isha. These are silent for men and women. So can she recite them loudly? The answer is, as for permissibility, this is halal, this is okay. As for the sunnah, this is against the sunnah, and you would be losing reward when you recite it loudly. But the prayer is valid and you have no problem with that. Amna says, how to deal with angry people? Stay away from them. Simple as that. When someone is angry, just stay away from them. Don't talk to them. Don't respond to their anger. Don't defend yourself. Meaning that when they curse you or say bad words, don't defend yourself. Don't argue with them, because shaitan is overriding them, taking control over them. So the best thing is to stay away from them and to make dua. Whatever you do is going to provoke them and make them angrier, and maybe say things that would take them out of the fold of Islam because of you. In the Sahih, the Prophet ﷺ was once with his companions when they saw 2 men arguing together in a very strong fashion. They were angry, but one of them was so angry his eyes almost popped out, his veins were so clear, and his voice was high, was rising, was loud. So the Prophet ﷺ said to his companions, now notice that the Prophet did not go and intervene. He could have, but it wasn't a wise decision. So the Prophet taught his companions a lesson, and he said to them, I know a phrase. If he were to say it, Allah would relieve him from what he is suffering from, that is his anger. What is the phrase? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. A beautiful phrase. Imagine the wife and I are fighting, and she is saying heinous things to me, abusing me, cursing me, You're not a man. You're not half the man you used to be. If you were a man, divorce me. I don't want to stay with you. I don't want to live with you. In the heat of the moment, I also get angry. And I'm tempted. Something is pushing me. I'm looking, there's nothing behind. Something is pushing me to divorce her, to beat her, to do anything. Excuse me, who's talking to me? Oh, it's Shaitan. Shaitan wants me to divorce. The Prophet says, alayhi salam, if I say at the moment with contemplation, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. End of story. I would, like having the ice bucket thrown on my head. Whoa, khalas. It's all gone. All what I see is an angry woman shouting, pulling her hair. I can't hear anything. I said, A'udhu billah, I'm seeking refuge in Allah. I would never divorce her. But if I don't say that word, she would pull the trigger. She would push a button that would inevitably make me say, I divorce you. And then everything is done. Shaitan is over there sitting, laughing his head off. And not only that, it is the well, yalla habibi. One of my grandchildren just walked in. لا عندي شغل حبيبي. Sorry for that. So the issue is, say this phrase. Now the Prophet said this, alayhi salatu wasalam. One of the companions, it might be Mu'adh ibn Jabal, it might be someone else, took the phrase and went to the man and said, oh Prophet, and he said to the man who was angry, who was furious, in a state of rage, he said, the Prophet ﷺ says that if you were to say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, this would take away all of your anger. Now, if you were in your normal state of mind, you would say it, but you're not. This is a problem. You are not in your normal state of mind. So what did the man do? A companion. But he was in rage. He said, go away from me. Do you think I'm crazy? So he rejected the advice of the Prophet ﷺ. He redirected his anger on this companion, who the companion acted upon his own self. He did not take permission from the Prophet ﷺ. Therefore, when people are angry, stay away from their path. It's like saying, Sheikh, there's a hurricane, there's a tornado coming to strike our village or city. What should we do? Run. Well, can we take shelter? Can we do? You can, but the best way is to stay away from its path. Otherwise, it's going to have devastating impact on you and everyone else. Wazma says, it's very hard to know who to take the knowledge from. How to know who to take Islamic knowledge from. This is an issue that we've always mentioned before. Ibn Sirin, may Allah have mercy on his soul, says, Inna hadha al-ilma deenun. This knowledge is religion. And you should know who to take your religion from. Usually, if I hear of a person and I like the way he looks and sounds, I've listened to one of his lectures and wow, that was a good lecture, I would check his credentials. So I would check those who know him. So I would say to the scholars around me in my country, what do you think of XYZ? Now I know that even scholars have problems among themselves due to rivalry, maybe envy. So I, Sheikh Asim, I look at other da'is and scholars and I'm envious. Why are they more famous than me? Why do they have more followers than me? If I don't fear Allah Azza wa Jal. When asked about X da'i or student of knowledge, or as you guys call them, scholars, they're not scholars, but So someone asks me, what do you think of Sheikh so and so? Because I'm envious. I say, Wallah, he's not good, he has problems in Aqidah. I don't fear Allah. Envious. And my testimony is driven by hate, grudge, and envy. I'm in hell. But if someone asks me and I'm bound to answer to the best of my knowledge, Akhi, this person has problems in Aqidah. What do you want me to do? Sugarcoat it? This person has problems with flirting with women. It's obvious. You see it on videos. Cracking jokes, laughing. I don't know about his private life. This brother is not knowledgeable. He's famous, but he has zero knowledge in Sharia. So what am I to do? So you have to go and check with the scholars of your environment, of your community. Now, bearing in mind there's no one is perfect. So definitely you will not find a companion in the form of a scholar, but you try your level best to get as close as possible to the best available. They would direct you to scholars that they think that they are on the right path of the Qur'an, the Sunnah, with the understanding of the three favorite generations, and also checking their track record. And someone who's been around for 10 or 20 years, what are his shortcomings? What are the mistakes he made throughout this long period of time? If you count one or two in such a period of time, this guy is almost perfect. But if you count a mistake every single lecture or every single week, and the guy is catastrophic in what he delivers, then you know that even if he's famous, you have to stay away from him. So the process itself is difficult because it's not for you. Let me rephrase it. It's not for laymen. It is required to be studied thoroughly and analyzed by trustworthy students of knowledge. There are students of knowledge who criticize everyone. Anyone who does not follow their allamah, their samaha, they would criticize them. And sometimes they wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and say, what the heck is this? And they criticize their own selves. No, you don't listen to those. Listen to those who are fair, those who have benefited the ummah, those who are known not to have hidden agendas, wanting to raise people and lower others. Those who fear Allah Azza wa Jal, and may Allah make it easy for you to find what you are looking for. So I think we would stop here, hoping to meet you with the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal on next Monday, where we will speak about the pillars and essentials of marriage. So until that date, I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.